Well, a very great afternoon to everyone here, and I am truly excited to see the lively audience here. Beautiful discussion before this one. So taking it further, I would discuss today something which is not very isolated from what is already discussed. And this is about the safety and leadership. I think these are the two most strongest pillars of any organization. Without safety and without good leadership, I don't think we can achieve success. So my presentation today is a mix of a few things. It is a little critical, a little encouraging, a little funny, and also a little serious. So like Kunal and Ellen and everybody said in the previous discussions, you can have your own judgments. It is my perception about how I perceive things about safety and leadership, and so can you. I would start by showing you a few photographs, and this is about my story put into pictures. There's a set of people in a very remote setup, somewhere in a jungle. They're out to do a job which involves working in an enclosed space. They have identified some risks, it seems, and they also seem to have a good plan how to counter the risk. So it's an interesting story. What we see here is the first part of the work, which is donning of PPE. I mean, we have various checklists, permits today, but that somehow is not available to these people in their own setup. So if they don't have the long sleeves gloves, they find the skin of some animal, something to protect themselves. There's an enclosed space entry here. And how do we do it? We have attendants outside. They follow the same. There's also use of lighting, which is part of our checklist. Now, we have similar words in our industry, something like risk assessment, risk management, risk perception, risk awareness, and so and so and so. Probably these guys don't know about these words, but they certainly know what is a hazard and how to counter it in their own ways. So the hazard amplifies, the risk grows, and this is the time they use their PPE. I will just explain a little bit here on the picture. This person, before entering, covered his arm, and that arm he put inside the snake's mouth, and with the other hand, he clutches the neck of the snake so that it doesn't move. Shouts out to retrieve him, and his colleagues do that. Finally, they have a job well done in their own capacity. So now, well, I'm not preaching anything here. I don't want you to try anything of that sort. Please excuse me. As I said, it is your own judgment, how you implement it into your own organization, into your own life. But the idea is something different. The idea is that sometimes we feel the other guy doesn't know about safety. When we look at the people here, we may feel they are very primitive. They are cut out from the modern society. They have no resources. But the takeaway is they know what is safety, and they do the best they can in their own capacity. So the other part of safety is actually a very big challenge I personally had, how to define safety. We always talk about safety, do this safely, wear safety gears, follow safety procedures. But when I tried to put it into words, it was very difficult for me. So what I did, I just put it into some words. I hope you would like it. Safety, in my mind, is a tool which is in everybody's hand, me, you, identify, assess, and minimize the risk. Now, minimize to what? To an acceptable limit. Now, you may have again different perceptions about what is the acceptable limit. Because everybody can have his own judgment if a job or a task or a situation is safe or unsafe. When we talk about leadership, usually we talk about a person who is a team leader who encourages his people to get a task done in the most efficient manner or the safe manner as possible. In my view, it is not an individual as such. It is a social endeavor because there is a society involved, there's a group involved. It's not one person. There's a whole lot of people working towards this common goal. So it's a social process where people work together, joining hands, to produce results that they could never achieve alone. If you look back at the pictures which I showed at the start of the presentation, I hope you would agree that it was not one person's job. So as I read through some of the scriptures, some books, some material, I find that the leadership can be defined in three outcomes. They are direction, alignment, and commitment. I will just shed some light onto each of them one by one. Direction means there is an idea and we find some direction to move forward. Alignment across all the group members, right from top to bottom, they follow the same direction, follow the same procedures, and there has to be a commitment within the team to achieve what can be done best. So let's talk about our industry. I'll talk about the shipping, where the rules, regulations, procedures are formulated, and they form our direction. There are various authorities who do this, IMO, ILO, CMF, and blah, 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 blah. So this direction is available. The other two elements are very important. The alignment, how do we do this? People talked about port state control inspections, right ship, vetting. I am no different in my view that these people have the responsibility and they're doing a good job. The commitment has to be there from the vessels, the crew, the offices, the authorities. Everyone has to take it as seriously as any other person in the group or the team. People talked about psychological safety in other sessions. I also agree with this 100% that the psychology drives the team. The success or the failure will depend on how psychology is filtered throughout each and every individual in the team. Now, when we look at things, how they stand in our industry today, there was enough discussion about stress, about crew welfare, about human resources, about training, about procedures. And while I agree that these are very, very strong and important elements, we need to take a hard look sometimes as to the extent where it is stretched. How much is enough? While we see that safety is growing in our industry, there continues to be serious incidents, accidents, and every time there's a discussion about human element or a change of procedure. My view is that striking balance is very, very important. I think Captain Akshat mentioned that when ISM came, it came with a pure intention of making seafarers' life safer. There were formulations of checklists, procedures. But somehow when I look at any company's manual or procedure, it is running into thousands of pages. In my humble capacity as the quality assurance manager, even I don't remember what is written in our manual, to be honest. So if we expect that our crew members would remember each and every part of it, it is humanly impossible. So this is one point of introspection where we want to be a little generous, little lenient, and little human towards the people who are working for us. Let us look at the regulations. Some questions are posed, and I hope you would agree. Over a period of time, they become too many. They are not easy to understand as well. When I look at SOLAS or MAPOL, I mean, this is so complicated. When we write a manual, when we write a circular, our intention is to make it simpler to understand for people. Somehow, IMO and other authorities need to take a hard look at how they write their procedures. If I need a class to give me a clarification about certain regulation, I mean, you imagine how difficult it is for the crew to understand that and implement in place. We want them to follow procedures, but what have we given them? A very complicated paper. I mean, it has to change. About the role of inspectors also, people talked before lunch. I don't want to put you to sleep, so I would just pose a small thought that I have. And I agree with the speakers who discussed earlier that the inspectors are mainly focused on fault finding, and there's never a Thanksgiving. At least I did not see this. Personally, when I used to go on board, or I do that even now, the first thing is I think about the people because I come from the same background. Sometimes people forget that. When they grow in stature, when they become superintendents, when they become managers, they probably forget to thank people with whom they grew. So there's something else to think about. Then training, again, in my view, it has become excessive. I fully understand the importance of training, but the way we are proceeding is heavily dependent on how many papers or documents or certificates a person is carrying. Nobody is trying to gauge the practical aspect of training. In the end, it has become cumbersome for everyone. I understand there are new rules, regulations, there are new equipment on board, so people need to be trained. Fully agree. But when you push them to a wall, it becomes very difficult for them as well as for everybody else. So there is a conscience which needs to be developed about how much you dig deeper into the training, how much is important, and what questions are going to be posed to a certain rank. So this slide again reiterates what I already said. There are rules, regulations, procedures, and training, but they were intended for some good purpose. Somehow I feel it is growing towards a phase where it is becoming detrimental. When people don't remember many things, if we keep it limited, keep it focused, without any bias, it is going to give better fruits. So it is time to review that if something in our procedures is growing out of the window, we need to control it before it becomes a chaos. And why? Because we want to reduce stress on people, as everybody talked about in the previous sessions, and also burden on all concerned, including myself. Even I want to be stress-free. Hello. So there's a small clip I want to share with you, just to confirm that if my message was clear to you. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful afternoon.